everybody, been a little bit of time. Sorry that it's been so long between drinks. I've been a little bit busy and haven't been able to get to any of these videos recently. But today we're going to do some work on the MS251. So like in a previous video that I showed, the MS180, some of the general maintenance that you've got to do on your chainsaw, we'll do the same thing on the MS251 today. A little bit different. The filter's a little bit different. Some ways of opening up the actual box itself is a bit different compared to the MS180, but we'll work our way through it. So what I did, went down to the local Stihl shop, bought myself everything that I need. So we'll go through it slowly. First thing we have is a fuel filter. So we'll get that up close. Put that up there. Next one we got is our air filter. Pretty simple to put these on. It's a push and turn system. So we'll put him on. We also bought our socket, which I can put on, and a spark plug. So nothing too onerous amongst any of this. It should be all pretty straightforward and simple. Shouldn't take us too long to do. So we'll get straight into it. I'll put it down on a bit of carpet just so we're not scratching the bottom of the chainsaw while we do this. It also lifts it up, makes it a little bit of a better working height for me to get into it. Alright, so first up we'll start with the case. So we'll do everything in the top part of it first, which will be the air filter and the spark plug. So they're the first two things that we'll replace on it. So for the MS251, it's got 4 screws on the top. Now they're the type of screws that you don't lose. They don't pop all the way out. They have a bracket underneath it that holds them in. So really good design on this, because there's nothing worse than taking these type of things off the top of your chainsaw. And I'm done enough. Nothing worse than taking these type of things off your chainsaw and then losing the nuts and bolts and bits and pieces. So I really like how Stihl have designed that. It's a similar design to the MS251, but when you take it out you have to give it a bit of a lift. Also, again, I'll put it back on and show you the other thing, is that if you have it up in choke or on, when you try and take it off, it's harder to get off. So you push it all the way down, and that way it can come off pretty easy. So that's all nice and clean, don't need to worry about him. I'll just leave that to the side. First thing we'll do is our air filter. So as I said, very simple. You just twist it off. There's nothing more to it than just slowly unwinding it until it comes off. So bring up close and you can see the difference between the two. So dirty one and clean one. So the dirtier the air filter, the more work it takes on the engine to actually suck that air in. So it's something that you always want to do, as much as it doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look like it's a terrible air filter that is going to cause a lot of issues. You keep replacing them as often as you see fit, and my thoughts are always at least 12 months. If you're in a more dirty environment, you might want to do it more often than that, but at a minimum 12 months you want to replace all of this. Alright, next one we've got our spark plug. Let's take the resistor off. It wants to come off. That rain's getting heavy too. Just take that off. Have a bit of a check over it. Make sure there's nothing wrong with that. And it's a bit odd. I was going to say, you should be able to use your tool that the chainsaw comes with to undo this. I'm wondering if at some point I've actually swapped them over between my other chainsaws. So give me a second, I'll see if I've got the other tool for this. This is what I'm meant to be using. Hey guys, I'm back. I was actually using the wrong one. So at some point in time, I've swapped over the two tools that come with the chainsaws. I was using the MS 180 one. So this is the one that comes with the MS 251, and it's the smaller end that you use for your spark plug. So very simply, get in there and undo it. If I bring that up and show you, we're undoing the spark plug in the top. Comes out very, very easily. Undo it until it comes all the way out. And get our new one out. Again, I'll show you the difference between the two. Now, this was starting fine. It wasn't causing us any grief, but you can see over time that the spark is harder to generate with all that soot on it. So again, replacing this before it becomes an issue is always the best way, because there's nothing worse than getting out there and trying to use something and it not starting as you expect it to. Put that back in and turn it back up. Now with any of these sorts of things, you do want it tight, but you don't want to over tighten it to the point of cracking anything, because there's no give in this. So tight enough that it's going to hold and not pop back off again without going to the point of cracking your case. Alright, so that's the top. So all we've done in the top here, we replaced the air filter and we replaced the spark plug. So put our case back on to protect it while we do the rest of our work. So next thing we'll do once we've got these screws back on is we'll do the fuel filter. That one's a little bit messy because you have to actually dig your hand in there. So if you are doing this, you're better off doing it when there's least amount of fuel in it, so you're not actually digging your hands in amongst a full fuel tank. Not the end of the world if you are. Just saves a bit of mess. A bit easier and cleaner to do it. In saying that, I have no idea if I have a full fuel tank or not, so I may be making this hard for myself, but that's fine. There's a little bit in there, but not a huge amount. So now we're just got to go fishing in. Try and find where it is. This one is a bit harder than what I was expecting. Alright, got it. So what you're trying to feel for is a soft black pipe, and that will have your full fuel filter on the end of it. So I've got it there. Now, just got to actually slowly work my way into being able to pull it up. I might actually try set a little pliers to see if that'll help me pull it up and through, because I think my hands are too thick on this. To be able to actually get it up and out. Alright, here we are, we got it. Oh. I am so close to getting this out, yet I feel like so far away. Come on. Now, from memory, the MS 180 was a lot easier than this. And I don't know why. I don't know why that was so hard. It really shouldn't have been. Also, it feels like on this that the pipe on the end of it is maybe not quite long enough, and that might be why it's pretty difficult. And I'm pretty nervous here that if I don't keep a hold of it tight, I've just put the new one on. Sorry, wasn't explaining that very well. Just put the new one on. You just pull it off. It's got a barb on the end of it. This is the old one, and it just slides back on. Be really careful that you don't end up letting go of the little hose that's in there. Because if you let go of it, I reckon that's going to be really tricky to get a hold of again. So when you're doing it, make sure that you keep hold of it nice and tight when you're swapping it over so you don't lose it. But that's the replacement of the filter anyway. So it was a little bit trickier than I thought it was going to be, just getting it in there and pulling it out. But done nonetheless. That's the main thing. Alright, and now we've only got one thing left to go, and that's our sprocket. So we'll open him up. One thing that I did forget to get is the little ball bearing runner that goes underneath this. I'm hoping that when I look at mine it'll be fine and I won't need it. If I do need it, next time I'm down to the Stihl shop I'll go and buy one and quickly replace it, so not the end of the world. But to get to the sprocket cover, MS251 only has one bolt in it. You take your cover plate off, put that down, take your chain and bar off, and this is what you're left with. And what we're replacing is the actual sprocket here. You can see over time, I'm not sure if I can get that in very well, you can see the wear marks on the sprocket. Again, as it is, it's not causing us any grief, but those wear marks do eventually get to the point where the chain will start skipping, and you'll feel that as you're pulling it through, it'll get tighter and looser as you're actually pulling the chain along, which just demonstrates that your sprocket's on its last legs. So again, like with what we just said with everything else before, may not be causing us an issue right now, but worthwhile doing it so it don't cause us an issue in the future. So what I'm trying to get off here is our circlip. It just sits over the top. It's pretty tight, and you want to do this fairly carefully just so it doesn't spring off and disappear under the shelf somewhere. So all it does, it sits over the cover, and it's just this little thing here. So you just use your end of your tool where it looks like a screwdriver, and you just get it in amongst those bits at the top there and just slowly lever it off. As I said, you want to do it slowly so you don't end up losing it anywhere. We've got a little cover plate, and then our sprocket itself should just pull straight off, which it did. So here's the two of them. So as I said, you can see now that I've got that off, you can see the wear marks sitting in that compared to our new one. And the little piece that I was talking about does look fine, so I won't have to worry about that. But it's a little, I'm going to call it a bearing cover of some sort that helps the sprocket spin nice and smoothly. So I'll leave that on. I won't bother replacing him at the moment. Next time I go down to the Stihl shop, I'll go and get one and put that on. Now, when you put your sprocket cover on, it does have a little divot cut out of it. So you can see just in there. So when you put it on, you've got to find where that lines up to. So for me, it's pointing, well, let's say at 5 o'clock. If we look at that as the clock, pointing down at 5 o'clock, and you just slide it on until it feels like it fit into place, which it did for me there straight away, which is good. We put our cover back on. You know if you've got it in place, because when you put your cover back on, you should have enough space to put your circlip back on as well, which I do. So all I need for that is a pair of pliers which I've got behind the camera here. Have I got any pliers? Where are my pliers? Guys, where have we put them? Thought I had a pair of pliers here, but it doesn't look like it, so I'll use a set of multi grips. It'll do the same thing. So I'll just use the multi grips to get it on. So all I'm doing here, you can see that I've just got the circlip sitting above the spot. I'm just going to squeeze that on just to get it on so it fits properly. You can do it by hand, but it's a bit fiddly and hard to get. So I found using something like a pair of pliers, or as you can see there, a pair of multi grips, works pretty well. So once you put it on, give it a spin. If it spins well, then you know that you're all good. And that's it. That's our preventative maintenance for an MS251. Pretty straightforward, wasn't it? Hope you guys have enjoyed that. Hope you find that this helps. So that if you've got a MS251 or any type of chainsaw, whether it be Stihl, Husqvarna or anything else, this type of stuff is really simple. Takes 5 minutes. Go down to your local dealership. They'll be able to supply you with all these bits and pieces. I'll put them up on the screen, so if you can have a look around, you'll see them all around the screen at the moment. I'll put up the part numbers and the bits that I've used today, so you can go ahead and make your purchase and look after your chainsaw. Hope you guys have enjoyed that. Have a great day. Bye all.